Alright, let's talk anime figures. There's a lot of little decisions you have to make when you buy anime figures. Do you pre-order or wait? Do you pay now or later? Do you hold out for a re-release or hope for a better figure? All these little things can start to become annoying, which leads us to our topic of the day, which is anime figure burnout. Now, burnout happens when the pressure of collecting becomes too much, a little stressful, and the hobby stops being fun. While I'm not completely burnt out on the hobby, I'm getting pretty close. I'm like at a mob psycho with 90% before I flip a detolf over. So I'm going to be talking about some of my personal experience with burnout as well as other common reasons I've seen in the community. A lot of it boils down to cost. Figures are quite costly in terms of price and time. Not only are figure prices going up, but everything else is too, so the hobby takes an even bigger toll on your wallet. The only reason figure collecting is tolerable right now is that the value of the yen is pretty bad, but exchange rates are always a gamble. For example, if you live in the US, the value of the dollar is also starting to drop, which means a worse exchange rate. So what can you do to keep the cost low? Well, most good figures go up in the aftermarket, which kind of forces you to pre-order, because that's when it's usually at its lowest price. Pre-orders are your best chance of getting a figure because a lot of times they don't make extras, or if they do, they sell out pretty fast. When you pre-order, you have a bunch of options, whether it's local or overseas stores, but depending on the store, you might have a pretty bad experience. Crunchyroll might ship you plastic paste instead of a figure. Tokyo Takumo doesn't let you cancel, makes you pay ahead of time, and you get the figure a lot later. But at least there's AmiAmi, right? Our trusted friend in the figure business. But AmiAmi might pull a top 10 anime betrayal and just have absurdly high shipping costs, which wouldn't be so bad if you knew ahead of time. You don't know the exact cost of shipping until it's in stock and ready to go out. Recently, I had to pay for the shipping of Ningguang and Kaiba, which were insane and just a lot higher than I expected, and so I had to cancel several other figures just to cover it. To make things worse, they also announced their shipping costs are going up, and a lot of their scale figures are starting to be ineligible for combined monthly shipping, which was one of the best parts of AmiAmi. So yeah, a lot of stores have their downsides. Then there's actually getting the figure, in which it might not turn out like the prototype or promotional images. It might end up being a lot lower quality, or have a very off-putting base you weren't expecting. It's not like a video game where you usually have the luxury of waiting till release, because if you wait, you might miss your chance, right? So what happens is you might have to spend a lot of time hunting it down, get it pre-owned, or pay crazy aftermarket prices. Waiting till after release also puts you more at risk to bootlegs and getting damaged figures. Otherwise, you just gotta hope they re-release it, which is pretty rare and you happen to be aware of it. Which leads me to my next point, which is the time consumption this hobby can take. You know, figure collecting is a very niche hobby, so it doesn't have a lot of people talking about it. It's very easy for a figure you might want to really fly under the radar, right? I missed the pre-order window on Cheshire Cat and had to pay a lot more. I also missed the window on the Boji Nendoroid. Thankfully, there is a site called Buy Friend Moe, which will send you a notification if somebody cancels their AmiAmi pre-order, and hopefully you're quick enough to get it. But it's still not great because you get the notification at like 4 AM and it took me 4 tries to actually get a pre-order. Also, it's just very time consuming trying to keep up with all these different companies and their infrequent updates. They're also inconsistent with each other. Some might just suddenly put up a figure for pre-order and you don't have any money set aside or available, or some will go months or even years with no updates. And for some of these figure companies, the quality goes down while prices go up, and it just feels like they put in less effort and creativity over time. This is often a case-by-case issue with scale figures, but it's mostly seen in the affordable product lines like pop-up parades and Nendoroids. Most people can agree that pop-up parades have gotten a lot worse. Another thing is the bases have changed, which really annoy me. Sure, the bases didn't look great, but at least they fit together, so they were a little unique. But the new circle bases just don't match with the older figures. It's like if Amiibo suddenly made their circle base into trapezoids. On the other hand, Nendoroids, when you compare them to older ones, have a lot less parts and accessories. Now, once the honeymoon phase of collecting is over, a lot of figure designs can start to feel pretty lazy or boring. You know, the abundance of freeing bunnies, China dress figures, or the fact that a lot of characters just get the same outfit. I mean, just look at Jujutsu Kaisen, they all start to kind of blend together. The more time you spend in this hobby, the more the poses start to feel very samey. I just wish more figures were like the Attack on Titan Kotobukiya figures. Those are just really dynamic, which is why Kotobukiya is one of my favorite manufacturers, but even they aren't perfect. They've been making exclusive bonuses for their figures, which often means you would have to pay like an extra $50 to get a little extra piece of plastic or another faceplate. But since figures are so expensive, one thing you can start doing is budgeting better. But for me, budgeting is a double-edged sword, because once you start setting a limit, that takes a lot of fun out of collecting. A spreadsheet is an easy way to hit yourself with a reality check of how much you're spending and what it could be used on otherwise. Sure, it may be more financially responsible, but if you're like me, it's just another hassle, right? The spontaneous nature of getting excited and impulse buying is just gone. One of the things I really enjoy about manga collecting is that I can take a gamble. I could pick up a random title and be pleased to find a hidden gem, or if not, I wasted 8 or 10 bucks. But you can't treat figure collecting the same way unless you're in a really good spot financially. One way a lot of people also offset the cost is by selling their old figures or ones they no longer care for. But I've never actually sold a figure for two main reasons. One, I get really attached to the figures I buy. After all, it was something I liked enough to purchase in the first place, but also it just kind of gives me anxiety. Selling a figure means you got to go through a lot of effort to find a reputable buyer and agree to a price you both feel is fair. You have to make sure it's well packaged and hope there's no issues in transit. I've sold a lot of other valuable things before online, and it can be a nightmare if there's a problem. But I also get anxiety waiting for figures to arrive. Since these figures have to travel quite the distance, I've had packages lost, which just suck. I've also had some stolen, which you just gotta hope you're home when they deliver and have no plans that day. And then I also ship a lot of things by service or sea mail to save a little extra money. But the time could be anywhere between 2 to 6 months, which kills a lot of excitement, especially when you've waited so long already. And that doesn't even factor in delays. I'm sure delays have always been a thing, but it just seems like it's gotten a lot worse with all the manufacturing issues and material shortages from the pandemic. Then there's the fear of missing out, the FOMO. Sometimes certain series or characters you really like might not get many figures, so when one comes out, you might feel pressure to buy it. Then you might just be unlucky and have a better figure come out right after you bought that one. Like, I really love Steins Gate, so when I got the Kurisu figure, I was pretty happy. But then Good Smile put out an even better one, and I just can't justify having two. I mean, this isn't an issue for a lot of people because you'll just sell it, but for me, I still really like the old one. But that's nowhere near as bad as when they release a better version. For example, the Taiga Bunny and the G.I. Joe Bishojo figure. Figures are great because they're 3D, but that also means they take up a ton of space. But it only gets worse because of the boxes. I'm starting to really hate boxes. I hate having to rearrange all the figure boxes in my closet when I get a new one. A lot of these boxes feel unnecessarily big, and it's not like Tetris where I get a high score and if I make a clean line it disappears. You gotta keep the boxes because if there's even a slight chance you want to sell it, a lot of the value is tied to it. Or if you have any intention to move, you want to keep it for the protective packaging. And the final blow to the hobby for me are cancellations. Now, a figure being cancelled is extremely rare, but two that affected me were the Aquamarine bankruptcy and this Onmyoji figure. I was really looking forward to the Aquamarine Artoria figure. I know Freeing is making one instead now, but I'm sure they're gonna overcharge for it. And then there's the Onmyoji figure, which I missed the pre-order window for. It took me like 5 nights to get somebody's pre-order, only for it to be cancelled. But it was also a blessing in disguise, because a figure I really wanted was cancelled. I was forced to learn how to live without it, and realized this ain't so bad, which really slowed down my figure purchases. Anyways, I don't want this video to be too long, so let me know if you've experienced burnout in the past or if you're going through one now. I also made a Discord server if you want to yell at me there. But as always, thanks for watching, subscribing would be awesome, and I hope to see you on the next video. Bye bye.